Hello everyone and welcome to another unit review, and today we're looking at Red 13 or Nanaki. I'm probably going to call him Red, but honestly I've recorded this video a couple of times and I keep switching back and forth, so guess we'll see. So first of all, as with all of the Final Fantasy VII units, props to Alan for basically making them look almost just perfect to what they look like in the game. You know, you really just see the sprites and like they look just perfectly taken right from Final Fantasy VII. Limit bursts and everything, and honestly, this victory animation, it's just awesome. But yeah, Red 13. What can I say about Red 13? Well, let's talk about Red 13's details. First of all, he's definitely a chainer slash damage dealer. There's no question about that. One of the questions I do ask is, well, is Red 13 for long fights? Red 13's kit certainly has a lot of things that would seem like it is built for long-term fights. Has stacking damage, it has, you know, AoE evasion, it has just lots of different things in it that make it seem like it's made for long-term fights. But, well, strengths are as... maybe before we get too far into his kit and what the problems are, let's talk about the TMR first. TMR is an accessory, 50 attack on it, so that's pretty damn high if you consider what's in the game right now. 10% extra attack, 20% MP. Now, yeah, that is just generally probably the strongest piece of attack accessory you can get in the game right now. So, nothing to complain about there. Super TMR, on the other hand, is another accessory. Okay, Alum, you could probably be a little bit more creative, but whatever. Super Trust Mastery is a 60 attack, 30% MP, and 100% limit versus fill rate accessory. 60 attack is the highest attack you can get on an accessory right now, so it's super whale bait to say the least. But yeah, that one is definitely strong. Now, let's talk... do we want to do limit burst? No, let's talk stats. Stat-wise, Red 13 is incredibly interesting. His base attack is 219 with an extra 65 points put in. Why is that interesting? Well, okay. Someone has noted that Red 13 doesn't have a lot of passives in his kit. At least not as many passives as some other characters have. And this is definitely true. But since Red 13 has a 219 base with an extra 65 points put in, as materias get better, he can hit the stat cap easier, which means long term, I'm not entirely convinced that Red 13 couldn't be the highest attack in the game, let alone just an incredibly powerful unit later on. And this is also helped by the fact that, honestly, his equipment is so much better. Complain about accuracy all you want, but there isn't really a hairpin in the game, and I don't know how you'd ever do that instead of just putting like 180 attack hat in the game to make Red 13 good. Having great swords and katanas just makes him, you know, considerably a better overall unit. So I'm perfectly fine with this. This also means that he has access to some of the strongest true dual hand equipment in the game, which is rather important for a unit who is true dual hand. So when it comes to Red 13 and stats, yes, he doesn't have many passives for now, but as we've seen with Gravy's TMR in units like Axstar and Satan, who can hit the stat cap so easily, still, even with true dual hand, as TMRs get better in the future, so will his attack stat. So it's interesting to say the least. Red 13 may be more of a long-term investment than I actually think. Now his limit burst is kind of on the weak side. It doesn't do a lot of damage. It's 790% AoE one-hit physical attack, ignoring 50% defense, and a 3-turn debuff maxed out of 84% to Fire, Wind, and Dark. Not super great, seeing how Fire, Wind, and Dark you can get bigger debuffs from other units more recently, but it's also not super terrible. It also gives him triple cast for 3 turns, so Limit Burst is passable enough. Also, from using certain ability in his kit, he can also increase his Limit Burst power by 50%. So I kind of understand why it's weak, but I wish it was a little bit better. Now, some of the highlights of his kit are as follows, and I just need to bring up, there we go. And not listed on here is his 90 MP ability. This is another one that the more I thought about, the more I need to give some credit to, because it's an AoE 150% limit burst fill rate for 3 turns, and an AoE evade 1 attack for 3 turns. AoE evade is important, as it turns out, since it can really save your party's ass. So on a higher end attacker, to have something that can be part of his triple cast or double cast that gives AoE evasion to the entire party, it's good. It's really good. It's really, really, really good. Also in his kit, he has 3 different ways to put different elements on him, either fire, wind, or darkness, which is great because he can debuff that. He has some AoE chaining attacks, but also his big chaining attack is one that stacks damage and is backloaded. So most of the damage is on the final hit, so it can kind of chain cap itself. Now, the big thing about this is, like I said, besides just backloading damage and everything, is that it stacks damage. So at 400%, it's 10 hits at 10 frames, is a physical attack, and it gets 150% up to 1150%. This is very good because in long-term fights, after, multiple uses, he will really start dishing out the damage, which is great. He also has natural beast killer in his kit, and he has a counter in his 7-star that can give him 150% extra beast, demon, and undead killer. Demon and undead are more valuable than beast, but beast is still somewhat valuable. Now, also in his kit, he gets some extra modifiers for equipping his own TMR, which is TMR is great. We've already talked about that. And some extra stats. His cooldown abilities, the 77 MP ability basically removes all debuffs on him, heals 600 MP, and gives him triple cast for the next 2 turns. Sorry, it heals 600 MP split over 3 turns, and gives a AoE 200% limit burst fill rate and an AoE buff of 130% to attack. Now, this is generally, I like this ability, but we'll come back to this in a second, because there's something I'm building up to. And the last one, 99 MP, is a 2400% single target 1-hit physical attack, self 3-turn plus 50% limit burst damage, and a 3-turn 250% modifier for his big chaining attack. This ability is very strong, especially in the future if TMRs generally improve and he can get to the 400% cap eventually with 300% true dual wield. Actually might be just freaking amazing. So all of this paints a generally strong picture. He has a high base attack. He can put 65 extra points into that attack. He can equip swords and great swords and katanas, which are the strongest true dual hand weapons in the game, pretty much. He has high attacks. He has stacking damage. It's backloaded damage. Where are the problems? Well, very clearly, his kit has some very noticeable problems. One, chaining partners. 10 hits, 10 frames is not easy, and I will show that in the showcase too. Also because this 10 hit of 10 frame ability, besides not having just a regular chaining partner, has a really long lag on it, which is a giant problem because it is very difficult to chain into with other 10 hit 10 frame users, which I will talk about also in a bit. His limit burst, not super big. and he can't give himself a big boost like some of the other units can. Like, if you think Axstar as well as Satan, both of them can give themselves a 250% attack boost for their attack stat. Red 13 doesn't have that. Red 13 kind of needs a support unit, which, okay, let's face it, everybody kind of runs a support unit anyway, so it's not that big a deal, but it is still something to note. But here's the thing that drives me absolutely bonkers about Red 13. Why in the holy mother of God is there no natural MP regeneration in his kit? And don't say it's the 77 MP cooldown. Finger was off screen. You know what? The long and short of it is that not having MP regeneration drives me frickin' nuts. Even if it's 5%, it doesn't have to be 10%, but just 5% is better than nothing. This is potentially wasting a slot on a piece of equipment to get some MP regeneration, and I get it. His 77 MP cooldown ability can regen him a ton of MP. 600 MP split over 3 turns is great. But still, not having MP regeneration in his kit naturally just sucks. It just sucks. And it's one of the things that hurts the most. Honestly, I think I can foresee in the future Red 13 having an absolutely beastly long-term value. Because, you know what? When I'm talking about Red 13 here, I really do mean it. I can see him potentially having just a whole bunch of possibilities in the future as base TMRs start getting better, like with Gravy's. Gravy's 70% TMR is just nuts. Also, his kit only has 100% true dual hand, so you need like 2 of Cloud's. But, So, now we come to the question, who does he chain with? Well, we're gonna get right in there. So let's show off. First of all, Lorraine does have the 10 hits at 10 frames. So as you can see, somewhat successful, but the timing is definitely difficult on this. It is very, very difficult. So Lorraine does have a 10 hits at 10 frames. So does Beatrix. However, Beatrix's needs to be enhanced, and it is an expensive enhancement. So for brand new people who are looking to use potential 7-star Beatrix and a 7-star Red 13, do know that Red 13's kit does not, Beatrix will need to be enhanced, so you will need to spend the resources on that. Alright. So as you can see, rather difficult to chain into. So both Lorraine and Beatrix do have things that chain in fairly decently. Now, so far, Randy is the one that I have found has the best chance. His seems to be somewhat more successful, as I was able to do a full 40 chain, so that means it was basically perfect chaining between Randy and Red 13. I have not been able to get it to happen between Beatrix or Lauren and Red 13. But what this does mean is that Red 13 does have a chaining partner, if not just one of the most difficult chaining I've ever had to do. So as you can see right there, somewhat successful. Also, just as a side note here, Red 13 does have human killers on him, but my Randy, well, okay, his stats really aren't that impressive for this one. But that's fine. We don't really want to show off that, so let's try this again. So as you can see, it's definitely difficult, but it is putting out 45 million per go, which isn't bad. It's not bad. Oh, you can kind of see it, and that boosts it up to 79 million. Also, Red 13's damage is stacking every time he uses it. So there is a perfect chain that is possible with Red 13. And, sorry music, I need like 2 more minutes. There is potential like perfect chaining with Red 13. It does exist in the game. Randy also isn't the most uncommon user, or most uncommon friend unit. Randy is not the most uncommon friend unit to find in the game. People who know Randy has just incredibly high damage potential because of the fixed dice, as well as his kit is absolutely insane. So sticking in with Red 13 is perfectly a good option, and if you can get the chaining down to a science without using external devices, because you're not supposed to use that on the JP side, and I don't care if you use that on the JP side, it's my job to warn you not to do stupid things, and then you can do stupid things if you want, but then when you come say, oh, Adam banned my account, I can go, but yes, Red 13's kit is just, how to put this? I see a lot of potential in it. I see incredibly strong potential. It would be really nice if we could get a chainer with the exact same frames, because then we could potentially get a perfect 40 hit, which would be very powerful. The amount of damage that it could potentially do is absolutely insane. Because the stacking damage, the backloaded damage, the high base attack, the great equipment selection, it's all here, minus the MP. So yeah, Red 13, kind of a mixed bag, but I would say an absolutely potential powerhouse, if not right now, in the future. It all depends on what Alan wants to do for support. And on that note, I will see you all in the next unit review. Talk to you later.